your reality has to be resonant with your beliefs, otherwise you go crazy. So changing how we orient, and that's why this conversation isn't only meant for women who are going through this. This conversation has to be had with the younger ladies as well, and girls, so that they're not afraid of this time, that they're like, ooh, I can't wait to have this capacity and experience that as well. Not just, marriage and babies, but that there's other amazing things also to look forward to in life.
Welcome to the Soulful Sound podcast, where you will find conscious, inspiring content to support your healing and transformation. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I want to extend a heartfelt invitation for you to be part of our community, where more insightful conversations await to guide you to heal, grow, and thrive. Simply click the subscribe button. It means the world to me, and your engagement is a big part of us reaching the hearts of other beautiful souls like you. Thank you so much for joining. Sending you love, healing, and sound wherever you are. Welcome back, Dr. Saida Désilets, to the Soulful Sound podcast. As always, it's such a joy and honor to have you join us, and I'm so grateful for your time. I've been having these conversations with my inner circle, a lot of women around me, and knowing how much your work can be of benefit and beautiful resource, I wanted to have you on to speak about this particular topic, and that is the sacred, reverent journey of whether it's perimenopause or menopause, and how we can navigate this with much more grace as we go through this particular part of life. So welcome back.
Yay. I love talking to you, and I love being here in your community, and it's such a pleasure. And this topic is a topic I absolutely love. It's dear to my heart. Believe it or not, it's been a passion for decades, since a long, long time ago. Like right when I started my career, I was curious about who are the women in the middle age range who were juicy, looked like they were having fun, who actually had a sex life, who actually felt good in their bodies. There wasn't many of them, but I would definitely interview them. And I found out a lot of things. And so over the years, there's been this arc. What makes, menstruation better? What makes fertility better? What makes connection with a partner better also helps with this time of life. So essentially, I was like, oh, so just to have a better time as a woman, no matter what the phase of life is, there's some basic principles. And yet, this is also one of the biggest, I would say, getting our cycle, giving birth, and this phase of life these are very instrumental, huge initiatory type of portals that we go through. So there's many facets to that. So I'm excited to speak to you today about that initiation process of this beautiful time of life.
Yes, that's beautiful. And with that comes to mind the stories that we carry that aren't really ours to begin with, whether that is shame stories or medical things around medicine versus embodied transformation, which I know is a lot of your work. And I'd be curious about some of those stories that women listening now can go, okay, that's not mine to carry. That's a myth. That is not true. Let's speak to some of those stories.
There's so many, and I've been most of my career attempting to dismantle them. But I think one of the biggest ones that is harming women everywhere is that once our fertility time of life is completed, that we no longer are viable, which is completely BS. Like, in the cultures where they don't think that way, this phase of life is considered your second spring. It's like another, getting a whole new opportunity to be in your teenage years, reinvent yourself, have more rejuvenation, more vitality, more energy.
Yes.
However, it's also been found, there's a great book called Breaking the Age. What is it? Breaking the Age Code or something like that. Becky Levy. And in that, she found that if you change one negative belief about aging, just one, you get 7 to 8 more healthy years of living, just changing one. So impactful. She also found that people of North America, England, Europe, in those cultures, suffered a lot more of the detrimental impacts due to the belief systems versus indigenous cultures or even Asian cultures who exalt this time of life.
Yes. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I always wondered about my own relationship with this when that time is present, because let's call it ancestral or mother and grandmother lineage for me has always been, did they even go through it? It just seemed as though it was just from one phase to the next. And I had a conversation with my mother about this. I was like, what was menopause like for you? And she said, one day my period stopped, and then a lot of different things happened. I had no symptoms. No one would have known except that, I no longer had a cycle. And then after that, that was it. And I was like, so you didn't have anything that told you that you were like, that kind of guided you or said, hey, I'm in that period. And it was very much heart opening. It was very much returning to self. It was less about the physical symptoms that, of course, are real for many women. So I love that the belief and the way we think about it is a crucial part of how we can navigate with grace.
Yes, absolutely. So I would say the first thing to understand, and let's rename this phase of life as the power stage. I've been calling that the power stage all of my career. And it was because of the way that I investigated this time of life and realized in different cultures, especially more ancient cultures, and you see this, I think, in elephants and whales, where the elder matriarch who's no longer fertile is the most crucial element of the herd or I don't know what a bunch of whales are called together, a pod,
Yes.
a pod of whales. Just how essential the matriarch is. She knows, because she's lived for so long, the changes and patterns and how to deal with when certain weather changes or the food isn't available, like what to do, because she's seen so many seasons. So the survival of the entire pod or the entire herd is really reliant on this elder that is completely functional, very, healthy and just not making babies, but functional in all the other ways. So I thought this is interesting because human beings also, it's only the midpoint of life where this happens. So there's an important shift. And I know in some African cultures, you're literally considered a child until you're 52, and then you become an adult. So it's a very, I think different cultures deal with it differently, but just to start to understand, this is the power stage of life. If we just change that one definition, how does that feel when you hear that?
Yes. That's it. I mean, I've been working with that question. What if menopause is not a loss of fertility, but a return to creative sovereignty? What would that feel like? And how would I show up for myself in that stage of
Yes.
life?
And one of
Yeah.
my favorite clients of mine was Barbara Marx Hubbard. And I didn't know she was famous until after she passed, but she was my client and I didn't research her or anything. But we had a lot of very powerful conversation around Eros. She was nearly 90 when she and I met, and she was experiencing so much erotic current. She didn't know what to do with it. And
Mm.
her sister had given her my book, Desire. And when she was just partway through, she insisted on getting my phone number. She called me. She's like, I don't know who you are, but I need to work with you. This is really important. There's something happening. And she is from a time of life where her idea of self-pleasuring is just squeezing her legs together. So she really didn't know how to breathe and move and be with all of this energy. And one of her ideas, which I love, is instead of menopause, she called it regenopause, where instead of the egg going toward making a baby, you are fertilizing yourself, your deep creativity. It's the time of legacy creation, of birthing that. And so I love that term regenopause. It's not mine, it's hers. But I think it's a really beautiful way of, as you were just saying, what if it's actually a rebirth? What if it's a time of emergence in a very different way? And what if our value isn't just like youthful skin?
Mm-hmm.
There's something else there, and
Yes.
another kind of beauty, a different type of radiance. And yeah, so that's something very also important to consider is the frames that we hold around this idea, because our definitions literally is how we start to experience reality. So if
Yeah.
we define it that this is going to be bad and it's not nice and all these things fall apart, and you thought that all of your life, guess what's happening all of your life is you're priming yourself. So by the time you get there, that your reality has to be resonant with your beliefs, otherwise you go crazy. So
Yeah.
changing how we orient, and that's why this conversation isn't only meant for women who are going through this. This conversation has to be had with the younger ladies as well, and girls, so that they're not afraid of this time, that they're like, ooh, I can't wait to have this capacity and
Mm.
experience that as well, not just, marriage and babies, but like, but there's other amazing things also to look forward to in life.
Absolutely. And I think that is crucial, like that the education from a young age. I often call it rehearsing for the performance. And if we're rehearsing that it's going to be hard and this is how we know, this is all we know and this is how it is, then we're going to perform really well to that script. So yes, change that and step into a different place where there is another option. And I
Correct.
don't think a reframe needs to be a lifelong shift, as we know. There's so many ways for us to do that. So I want to speak to that. I know this is a big question, so kind of break it down or take it from whichever angle you feel called to. How can we learn to trust our changing desires, whether that's sexual, relational, spiritual, and I will add without needing to explain them?
Yes. First of all, let's just breathe that,
Mm,
because the question itself gives permission.
yeah.
Now we've stepped out of the box. Thank you.
Mm,
Thank you. My understanding of desire is that it is a communication. It's a visceral, it's the visceral way in which your own essence is attempting to guide you, to lead you, to inspire you to take the steps forward. And the way I understand the unfoldment of life is that we're never given too many hints. We're given the next step or maybe the next two steps, but beyond that, it's still a mystery.
mm.
That's a good thing. Because if you knew that everything that was ever going to happen in your whole life up front, what's the point of living it? There it is. So the mystery facet is the gift. So that's one aspect of desire. It is intended for us to attend to it as a compass. Feel your yearning, lean into it, allow it. Sometimes it hurts. There's that, we call it an ache, like we're aching for something. That's good, because it's when something hurts a little bit, you pay attention to it. A
Mm.
lot of times we don't pay attention to things that just feel nice. It just feels nice, but it's not like grabbing our attention. But you stub your toe, you're really aware of that toe for a few days. You're like, I didn't know how much I used that toe until I heard it.
Mm.
So desire doesn't always ache, but there is often an ache to it, especially if it's something that your essence, your soul, absolutely without any doubt knows that you must express this in some point in your life, in order that when you take that last breath, you're like, I did it. I lived my best life and I have no regrets. That is always the conversation your soul is having with you. And so that visceral experience of desire, of aching, of yearning is that compass. Now, having said that, desire is not static. Desire is evolutionary, meaning it evolves as you evolve. Think about what you desired when you were 5 years old compared to when you were 10 or 20, and onwards. It changes. That's good. It's emergent. It also doesn't always reveal itself immediately, or it will give you a fragrance maybe first, and you're like, what's that? I just remember the first time I felt kind of my book, the desire book, I kind of felt it was around. I'm like, ooh, I think I might have to write a second book. That's weird. I didn't have the shape. I didn't have the topic yet. And slowly, it became more and more concretized as I paid attention to it, as I recognized something wants to come through. This is really important. So answering, why does it change, and how do we not even have to explain ourselves? You don't have to explain yourself. It's your soul's calling. There's no explanation other than sit with it and be with it and go, really, this is what's next? This is what you're calling me into? Okay. What parts of me now need to bloom for this to become possible? And what parts of me now need to die, like just be shed? They're old, they're patterns that I don't need anymore, so that this can emerge. And at this time of life, it's almost like the volume gets turned up on that. The volume gets turned up on that. So I'm just going to sit with that for a second, see if you have a response, and then I'll continue with another idea.
Yeah, what's emerging from that so far is that when we think of the whether it's self-pleasure or touch or our libido or whatever words we can place on some of those things, therefore not be seen as issues, but rather we're creating new maps of soul-led intimacy.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you brought it back to the body, because I was speaking about desire in general. It literally could be, without desire, nothing happens. So it is a force of nature. It can be harnessed. The desire you speak to, though, the one that represents Eros being that which animates life, that which is aliveness itself. This is very crucial, because most of us are fed this lie that this part of ourselves goes dormant or dies or disappears. It doesn't. The difference, though, is that now there's a different type of attunement that needs to come in. I have to say, in my experience, because I am a cultivator of this energy, I have a daily self-loving practice. It's not even a practice now. It's just, I do it because it's like breathing, and it's just part of how I nourish myself and feel connected to myself. And if I don't do it, I feel like I'm a little disconnected with life somehow. There's a little less color on those days where maybe that doesn't happen. So there's a really important part of choosing aliveness. That's what I'm calling it, because sometimes if I say choosing the erotic, it can be triggering for some people because it's a word that's been hijacked. But for a moment, if you could just sit with, even if you're completely shut down, your libido's disappeared, you're like, I used to want it all the time, and now I couldn't even care less. That's a common experience. Take a moment right now and attune yourself to, would you be willing to allow yourself to feel a little bit more alive? To sense aliveness, even if it's just a tiny drop or trickle that's moving through you right now. To allow yourself to attune to that feeling of aliveness. For some of us, it will really bring us to some extraordinary places if we practice that attunement. And it's not going to look like what we see in porn, what we see in movies, what we see on Instagram, what we see in the media. These are entertainment, fantasy, like not real people. They're real people, but not real situations. Doesn't actually represent true eros, true aliveness. We're seeing it's a bit like saying, like, someone on a theater stage who's pretending to drive, that they're actually driving. No. They're pretending to drive so that you can have this experience that they're going somewhere through, whatever they're acting through. Well, it's the same with any sensual sexual scene that you see. It's not representing the reality of it. Yes, of course, it could look like that if you emulate that. But it actually can look very, very, very different. So a big thing and a problem that I have seen is posing as female liberation is, it's now almost becoming $1 trillion industry, is this rise in use of sex toys as a way to liberate female pleasure. And yes, they have a role. I would say, kind of like sometimes you go out for an exotic meal that has a role because it's something nice and different. But your healthy main staples that really get you thrumming and keep that consistency of good nutrition and healthy body, it's not going to always be these exotic things. You're going to have the thing that your body really resonates with. And that's actually very important. So for me, sex toys are that, okay, once in a while, if you want to kind of play to change things up, fine, creativity, great. But as the main staple, it's not a great entrainment. It's teaching disconnection. It's teaching that you need a particular kind of interaction in order to have the orgasm, which is just not true. And it also recently, some of the clients that I have with Erin, we've been talking a lot about what's going on for them. And one of them came forward and said, this practice is really difficult for me because when I just use my vibrator, it's a really quick orgasm and I can have that before all the emotions come in. She doesn't want to feel lonely. She doesn't want to feel all the things that she could feel and actually then have more orgasmic sensation. Because I think if we limit one area, it limits all the areas. But instead of actually going through that kind of I want to avoid all that stuff, then it's just really quick orgasm before any feeling comes in. This is being promoted as female empowerment. So we have to understand, like, when I work with women, and the first thing that I do, I said, we're going to do a very simple practice now. We're going to relieve tension in your chest just by taking some more conscious breath. We're going to become aware of the breath from the inside of the body. I want you to feel the space around your heart relaxing, the space, like even create more space so your heart can feel a bit more free. Okay, now what we're going to do is take some of this warmth that you're feeling in your chest. We're going to imagine it flowing all the way down into our belly and the space where the womb is. And if you don't have a womb anywhere, the space where the womb was, and then down into the genitals, and imagine this warmth just flowing in, like the sense of deep respect. And we're going to just do that. You would think that almost everyone would have this compassionate, warm, connected experience between their heart and genitals and have that deep respect. But the truth is hardly anyone does. And it's actually a practice that's very confronting, but a practice that really can support so much of what's going on in this phase of life, especially because it rebuilds trust with our body. A lot of us have lost trust with our body. We feel betrayed by our body, especially if one day you're normal and the next day you have all these crazy symptoms. You're like, what happened? Like, what happened? How did this overnight? I've got an extra 10 kilos, or overnight my joints ache, or whatever the thing is. Like, right. So this time of life is an opportunity to create more allegiance with the body, not to dissociate even more from it.
Beautiful. I wanted to touch on that attunement piece, which I think you did so beautifully just now. So for those listening, there is that invitation to slow down and do that kind of heart gentle meditation. And I know that you have a lot of resources around that that we can point people towards. This is not a cookie cutter approach, I know. So from your years of experience and research and your own experience, I suppose, what does sexual sovereignty feel like in the body? Not just from a language perspective. What can you just speak to that a bit, and let's just see what wants to emerge.
So I like what you're talking about. You're calling us into an awareness of what I call a felt state. So it's a state of sensation. So even just right now, as we're all sitting here, what sensation in your body are you most aware of? Is it that your bum's a bit uncomfortable because your chair is like a little hard? Is it that you have an ache in your neck, or maybe you feel like your hair on your skin a little bit and there's a tickle. Like just kind of notice from an outward perspective first any sensations. So that's the first place to start, is just kind of a scan of sensation. Then notice, what state of being are you in? Are you in curiosity? Are you anxious? Are you feeling playful? And when I'm with you, I feel so much love. Like that's, I get excited and I'm full of love. So my dominant felt state in this moment is just like outpouring of joy and love. So sexual sovereignty is also a felt state. And so I want to just kind of break down what those pieces are. Sovereignty is an invitation to understand that this belongs to you. You belong to yourself. Your body is yours. This is your sovereign space. And how much are you occupying that space? Are you only occupying your front body where you're predominantly aware of what's in front of you? Is there also a little bit of occupation of the sides of you, or like you can in peripheral vision have a sense of, oh yeah, I can feel my side rib cage and down my arms and the outsides of my legs. Okay. What about the back? How aware are you of what's behind you? There's so many people I can sneak right up on, and I'm literally an inch away. They have no idea I'm there because they're not practicing spatial awareness behind them. So being aware 360 degrees first of the space you're occupying, and that it belongs to you and that you're responsible for this space, and you can expand it at will if you're really happy and feeling safe. And like when you and I are together or with your family and we're all dancing, there's this very like, yay, everyone can come in and be close. But there's also moments, you know, when I've been in London and I'm in the metro, I'm like, oh no, you stay away. Like then everything like is more, my field is more contained and brought in. So that sense, which you already have of where am I in space and time, is getting that sense of your sovereignty. Does that make sense so far?
So far, so good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Sovereignty also comes with two things. It's not just the freedom to make choices about yourself, that you are the primary person that has authority over all the choices that you make for this vessel. It's also a responsibility. You are actually responsible for this vessel. So how do you feed it and hydrate it and care for it and like all the things? Do you have healthy boundaries? Do you touch yourself in a respectful way that feels good? Or are you just kind of like slapping things on and not noticing, right? There's this relationship, this primary relationship. This is our first partnership, is with this. So that's the sovereignty piece. Yes, you have the authority. Yes, you have freedom of choice. Yes, you have the responsibility. Beautiful. Okay, let's throw in the element of sexual. Again, changing that word for aliveness. So being able to understand, oh, any sensation I have that moves through my body belongs to me, including arousal. And for some of us, especially those who've had trauma or difficult experiences relationally or sexually or intimately, arousal can actually feel a bit scary. It's not always a pleasant feeling. Why? Well, the sympathetic system, when it comes online, you're alert, your heart rate goes up, you start to sweat a little, everything gets a little intense. And for some of us, that's like overwhelming. So why I bring that up is I want to bring in part of the idea of sexual sovereignty, where I am now the authority of my aliveness. I get to be responsible and choose how that aliveness is generated, how it's shared, with whom it's shared, when it's shared, or not at all. But I'm also responsible for enjoying it, because that feeling of aliveness that moves through us is the very thing that gives us vitality. It brings that spark in the eye. It brings that kind of radiance out of the skin. It makes us very magnetic. It's a really important part of us. That doesn't mean you have to be sexual at all with anybody, or it could be, and with whomever you want to be. It's your choice. You have the freedom as a sexually sovereign being. So understanding that both as a privilege and a gift, right? Then we can start occupying ourselves a little differently. Because primarily, I have found that we are conditioned socially a little bit to either dissociate from this or to point outward and have blame on things, or to even point inward as a victim, like, of things. None of those things really are supportive of you feeling that you are at choice with what happens here. And especially during perimenopause, menopause, say you're in a relationship, one of the big changes that can happen is, say, vaginal dryness. So there's a little bit of, could be some burning. And so then having sex in the same way as before does no longer feels nice. What do you do? Do you keep pushing through it and just suffer through the discomfort? Do you avoid it because it's too painful? So you're always creating an excuse. What do we do with that? A sexually sovereign person would lean in and get curious. What does my body need right now to feel alive and more juicy? It's a really important question.
Yeah.
I want to pause here because I know I can keep going, but I think I've said a lot and want to see how that lands.
Yeah, I mean, that's so beautifully articulated, all the pieces put together so beautifully. I'd love you to continue what I'm sensing on this piece, and it's something that I see in you, so I can speak to that directly, is also in this sensory attuning or acuity, the invitation of sensory play and how important that is to, as you say, bring aliveness. For example, we walk often when we see each other and you literally stop and smell the roses. You literally stop and smell any flower, or interact with nature, or dance in the water, or we've had some beautiful experiences in nature. And I just wanted to highlight it because I feel there is something embodied in that. And in the way you can really tune in, because we're not separate from source and nature, so that connection is really sovereign. I felt called to share that piece, and I'd like you to go deeper because there's
Sure.
a piece I know that's coming that I'm really interested in.
Well, I first want to acknowledge what you just shared, and I want to frame it so that the listener can think of this as a possibility for themselves. Because I have felt for a very long time that I'm having a really delicious and yummy and fulfilling love affair with life. So when I look at a sunset, it's not just the sunset over there, it's touching me. I'm allowing it to evoke sensation through my senses, because our sensuality, right? We're making sense of reality. Here I am. Even the sunset last night, I go for a sunset swim every night, and the colors are just every night slightly different, but extraordinary. I feel like it's a gift from, life, just going, whoa.
Love it.
As I'm in it and I'm moving through the water, which feels like silk. All of me. I mean, you've been to Forneas, you know that beach. It's amazing in and of itself. But I give myself that gift of, I could just be talking, I could be thinking about my day, but I'm always bringing myself back. Feel, notice, be, and even just a few seconds of feeling, noticing, being. There's an enrichment that happens. And so that's what I just wanted to put a side note, that we all can choose to have this love affair with life. And it can be secret. No one needs to know about it. They'll wonder why you're smiling all the time, but that's a good thing. Just let them wonder.
Absolutely.
Especially where you're living, Simone. Whenever I go visit, I usually have some local person going, you are definitely not local. I'm like, actually smiling, and I'm usually dancing
I
a
was going
bit
to
or
say it helps
something's
when you
happening.
dance down the supermarket aisle. People just say, nah, she's not from here. And I'm like, yeah, that's just how she does. That was just what we do. Why
But
not?
here's the gift. So if we were to consider this time of life to be the second spring,
Yes.
a rebirth, and then we need to bring the conversation of death into this conversation. And the reason I bring it up is I faced my own death on multiple occasions already in this life. So for me, every day is gravy, and I am living for me. What I love about this phase of life is there's a shift somehow in our being. I don't know if you started to notice it, but you give more 0 Fs out a lot. Your BS detector is suddenly like much broader. And there's a don't care if you don't like what I'm wearing or what I'm doing. I don't care. I am enjoying myself. It is bothering you to look elsewhere. I really like couldn't be fussed. There's mornings I go out and I've not even washed my face or brushed my hair. I just go out. I want to grab something quick because I want to add some fruit to my breakfast or something. And everyone at the store knows what I look like when I'm all cute, but they're equally happy to see me when I've just woken up and haven't, done anything. And it's that freedom of not worrying. I think this time of life is okay. Yeah, I danced down the grocery aisles, but why not? Is it illegal to do that? No. Is it make people smile or laugh? Or they think I'm weird? Great. I saw this weird girl. Great. Nice. Because it lights me up. It's such a boring activity. I can't stand. It's like, ugh, I'm in this horrible market, store with fluorescent lights. Might as well like be grooving because it makes it a much better fun experience. So this is the gift of this time of life, is that our sovereignty can be even more on the forefront. Like, I am doing this because this is yummy for me.
Yeah.
And when it's yummy for me, I'm a more fun person to be around.
Yes.
I'm overflowing with that kind of grace and more ease and joy. It's also interesting though, Simone, because I definitely notice a lot more of the crap too. And so there's this really interesting process of, yeah, I'm not interested in that. Nope, don't want that around me. Nope, I'm good. Like just the boundaries. It's like the sovereign space, your queendom. Like, you know what? I'm going to just clean out the rubbish because I want this queendom to just be flourishing. There's a natural instinct to that.
Yeah.
And going back to the libido, the low desire, sometimes the issue with the changes that are happening. And you wanted me to share a story. So I have so many client stories of women there was one woman, she was already in her 60s, 10 years of menopause, 10 years of no intimacy, sexual intimacy with her husband. They're both totally in love, adore each other. They want to, she can't. There's like pain. So she meets me, at the end of that kind of 10-year time of difficulty. And in less than 6 months of doing the heart genital practice, and then also some other ways of breathing with the genitals and so forth, and asking permission, but intentionally doing intentionally doing that kind of practice. Okay, just as much as I brush my teeth every day, I'm going to take care of my genitals. I'm going to take care of this part of my body. I got a letter from her husband saying, I want to kiss your feet. I am so grateful to you because we just made the most beautiful love for the first time in 10 years. It didn't hurt her. We both felt so good. It was so nice to be reunited with my beloved in this way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm like, honestly, you need to thank her. She's the one who did all the work. I just, reminded her of what's possible and gave her some basic ways to reconnect with her body. So that's a beautiful story for me because
Mm.
Again, this isn't someone who ran out and took 20,000 supplements or did some procedures, or she didn't do any of that. She went in and had a direct connection. This is what I like, because that direct connection with ourselves, it doesn't cost anything. It does cost attention and time, but to me, that's a worthy investment. It doesn't cost anything in the sense that you don't have to pay somebody for any of this. You just simply go, I'm every day going to put some love into my body and pay attention and listen. What does she need?
Yeah, that's
And
so beautiful.
yes, and I have found that when women do this more and more, and what's interesting, Simone, is that I worked with a gynecologist. We were doing pelvic exams, like measuring what the results of what was going on before and after women would be training. And over and over and over again, we kept seeing evidence of, she was just, the gynecologist was stunned. She was like, there was a lady in her 70s. She had a 70-something-year-old vagina. And then we did the exam again a year and a half later, and she had a 30-something-year-old vagina. And the doctor said, if I only took a video of your vagina breathing and showed it to other gynecologists and asked them, tell me how old this vagina is, they would all say in the 30s.
Mm.
Again, no supplementation, no surgeries, nothing external, but a woman who made the choice to connect her heart with her genitals, learn how to breathe a little differently so that part of the body, the pelvic floor, the vulva, would actually have breath and blood flow to it. And then also giving herself permission to explore this idea that I like to call erotic innocence. And it's that place of coming into your felt state of pleasure, of ease in your body, of joy in the body, of pleasureful sensation in the body, where there's no judgment, there's no right, wrong, good, bad, like this, that. It's just innocently investigating, playing with, delighting in, oh, what's possible for me. And it's been extraordinary to watch her bloom. And she has certainly, I think, has a very integrated, powerful sexuality at this point in her mid-70s now.
Mm. Celebrating that and honoring that, and then it speaks to I will call them, for the sake of reminding myself, the three C's that you've spoken about in so far in a few threads, and that is the curiosity, and then it's care, and then consent. And
Yeah.
even in those 10 years, that was her trusting that her body wasn't ready and giving herself permission, as you said, not to force anything, and then met with the desire to express pleasure with for herself and again in her partnership, to lean into that curiosity and go, well, what else is possible? That's so beautiful.
Yes. And I want to say, though, we're not talking medically on this podcast at all. I'm not a medical doctor. I have a
Mhm.
PhD in psychology. However, right now there's a positive movement from female naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, and some gynecologists who are more on the bio-optimizing side of things, to properly educate women on, okay, well, sometimes some sort of hormonal supplement is actually good and healthy, and it's not going to cause problems, because there was a strong movement over 20 years ago that created a terror in women to take care of themselves. But just as you would supplement your thyroid if it needed, that's a hormonal therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Then maybe your adrenals need some support and you take some pregnenolone, for example. So there's these facets, like whatever wisdom is coming to you to investigate, just investigate it. Don't worry about, oh, it's this or it's that. Find real information. There's two great books that I think are really important. They were referred to me by a functional medicine doctor that's also a friend. And the books are Good Energy, Dr. Casey Means, and the Hormone Repair Manual. I'm not remember her name right now, but I'll give it to you so you can put it in your show notes.
Sure.
They're intense books in a way, but if you take the time to go through them, you will understand your body in such a profound way that you're like, oh, now I know why I need to get regular good sleep and why I need to actually move in whatever way feels good for me, and why hydration is so key, and why taking extra vitamin D, for example, might be the big thing right now that I need to do. Whatever, simple things. They're not complex, they're not expensive, but really understanding what's happening on the mitochondrial level of your body. This is information. What's super interesting for me, Simone, is supposedly mitochondria literally are the things that are telling you what to feel at all times, right? So if there are little mini communicators on a cellular level, that's really important. So providing the body with the essential ingredients to thrive is really important. Now, we're not discussing all those things here, but I just want to give the listener, like, be curious, look into this. There's no shame in it. It's the same thing if you wanted to learn how to dance, you would go try and find a dance teacher in the style that you want to learn. And so to be vital in this arena of life, who knows, maybe you spent a long time being super stressed with a job that you didn't like, and over a period of time, that really, really wears down on your adrenals, for example. Or maybe you've been a night shift worker, or maybe you're in a type of relationship that's really not felt safe or good in your system. These things do affect us. So looking at how do we care for ourselves in this phase of life requires a willingness to open our mind and learn and look around. You don't have to, rush into anything, but informing yourself. And the best way to do that is with alignment with your body. So I'm always listening to my body. I've had some very weird moments in the last few years. One is certain moments in my cycle, I would be happy just to eat butter on its own, but I usually put it on something to deliver it, like a piece of toast, right? But I didn't know that butter is really, your body wants it in order to create more progesterone. So there was a natural intelligence calling me to eat this thing that was actually helping my body do what it needed to do. And so I've had a lot of those types of signaling in the last few years. And then I'm just like, really? Like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. And then I would investigate and I realized, oh my gosh, there's so much amazing intelligence that my body knew exactly what to direct me toward. And because I was listening, I was able to give that to my body. So just encouraging everyone here, part of that sovereignty, part of the realignment and the rebirth and the second spring is to go, how can I do things differently? And am I willing to do it? Really, really let go of how I used to be and who am I becoming?
Yeah.
Because you could still, if you want, be the healthiest version of yourself.
Yeah.
It's a lie to think that your health has to de-escalate until you die. You can actually start right now and feel better and better and better if you choose. It's on you. But it really is, at this phase of life, a sovereign choice. It really is choice, because I see people who don't choose and they really do decline and have a lot of problems. And then I see the courageous ones making a choice. And sometimes it's tough because, say, with their partner still eating crappy food, partner still doesn't want to move, just wants to watch TV till 2 a.m, those habits. And they've had to go, well, you know what? I'm going to eat a little bit better. I'm going to go for an evening walk, and I'm just going to get to bed at this time and not do those things. And it creates tension a little bit for a while, but then eventually either the partner joins in or they just accept that they have these different ways of being, but the person themselves starts to feel better, in their body, about themselves. And it's really, that's the sovereignty piece, is, are you going to continue with certain patterns just to make people comfortable around you? And this phase of life, usually it's a hell no.
That's right. I absolutely relate to that before, not caring, not giving two F's about this or that. Like, Not for me, thanks.
All
Um,
right.
so what you just shared is a kind of a segue into the question that's kind of percolating now, and that is, what role does grief play in the menopause portal, I'll call it, and how do we honor it without bypass or drama?
I think, well, grief can hit us at any time, but this is also a time of life where it's almost like you're re-examining what has come to pass, where you might not have made the best choices, or maybe there is a genuine loss. You've lost some friends or family members. There's things happening. It's also can be a difficult time of life with parents who are aging, and a lot of my friends have parents who aren't doing so well. So there's a lot of stress or have actually passed, which is very sad. For me, with this sense of this heaviness, this inward pull, because that's what grief is to me. It's like it's pulling me inward. It's saying, block out the world and feel this. Allowing that to happen actually allows me to not make the grief a bad thing. And so there's a holding of myself that needs to happen. And grief, we need to breathe.
Mm.
Grief is one of those things where, in some ways, I kind of see it as part of a birthing process, meaning to grieve is to have loved, to grieve is to have been touched by something. And when we can breathe and sense into that, then there's, I don't know, just a profound, like underneath that, a profound gratitude for having had that experience of love or connection or whatever it might be that we're grieving. Some of us, though, and I think this is what you're pointing to right now, Simone. I have so many clients who have grief that comes up at this time of life because they're like, why didn't I know about this before? Why didn't I take advantage of when I was younger to do this or like make better decisions? And so that is part of the portal I wanted to mention earlier. Perimenopause, menopause, if you can see it as a gateway into that second spring, and that gateway will not allow for the things that are in dissonance, let's say, to come through.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we stop at that gateway. We don't go through just yet because there is either like emotional things going on or physical things going on or relational things. There's stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But if we spent a life of being disconnected from body, disconnected from emotion, disconnected from our true calling, like all of these things, that's going to be in our face at that portal. Yeah. And a common emotion then is grief, even if no one's died, even if there's no like outward reason for it. And so for me, when I look at that, then I start looking at the deeper layers and like, oh, how long have I spent in my life already in the act of self-criticism? Because what I have noticed is that grief, or even let's take it deeper to depression, which can happen if you don't grieve properly, you can go even darker. It's actually many, many, many layers of self-criticism. And so at that portal that life is inviting us, are you ready? Do you want to come through? Because these things cannot come through. You need to come through in full alignment with your resonance. Otherwise, if you are attempting to come through with all this, it's going to feel like, ah. So we can rest for a moment. Imagine that gateway is actually two big, massive trees that form an arch. And there's shade, and they have these big trunks, and there's moss at the bottom that you can lean into and rest and go, okay, I know I need to go through this portal, and I also need to take a moment
Mm.
and be okay with not knowing, be okay with feeling crappy, and be okay with things feeling like everything's kind of falling apart or dying around me. Or maybe I'm actually really good and everyone else is not doing great, and I kind of feel guilty about that. Kind of like your mom's like, I don't know, one day I just didn't have my period. That was about it. That was the same with my mother, by the way. Like, I don't know, just one day it was there. Like, that's just how it was. So for some ladies, being able to just sit with, I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
But am I willing, like in the African tradition, to step into true adulthood? Which means, am I willing to take 1,000,000,000% responsibility for my feelings, for my thoughts, for my choices, no matter what they are, for the state of my body, for the state of my relationship, for the state of my work or whatever? Am I willing? So sitting in the shade of those trees and holding any heaviness, whether it's grief or depression or just the pressure of not knowing, that mystery, and breathing, expand those lungs. But not only breathe with your lungs, breathe with all of your skin. The skin is breathing all the time. Breathe with your skin. That your whole being, inhale what's possible, exhale the old. Inhale fresh, beautiful, aliveness. Let go of the old sick energy. Every single breath a meditation. This is one of the practices that I give as well to clients, and I do myself. Like, every breath, can I be completely aware of, I'm breathing in life, I'm releasing the old. I'm breathing in possibility and letting go of limitation, whatever it might be. But just using breath as my teacher, as my guide, as the medicine, and just holding myself, because that is part of stepping into sovereignty. Can I hold myself?
Beautiful. It's for me, this is naming grief as a sacred teacher, not the enemy, and allowing its presence to soften the threshold of our rebirth.
Yeah. And I mean, we're very close. And we've both been feeling a lot of different things on our own journey. But what I love about connecting with you is, yes, we always drop in what's true, what's actually alive in this moment, what needs to be expressed. But then there's also, what are we leaning into? What is that possibility? And I love that you're a cheerleader without being obnoxious. Like, you're not in my face, like, da, 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 da. You're just like, yes. You're very spacious. And I hope I'm the same for you.
Of course.
But having true support through not only in your relations, but in your friendships, in your sisterhood, it's actually really important, because for me, when I started doing moon lodges, which is a traditional Native American sweat lodge, but specifically for when you're menstruating, and women of all ages are welcome. So you don't, I mean, if you can be in your menopause and you go in. But what's intriguing, I remember the first moon lodge I ever did, it was really powerful. And the shaman, he said, I'm not staying because I'm a man. I'm just going to give you instructions and then you all do your thing as women. But the reason we formed a moon lodge is we'd done a sweat lodge a few days before. And the moment a woman came in that was menstruating, it created so much dissonance and chaos in the sweat lodge. And when she left, like, everything came back into resonance, not because mooning is a bad thing. It's just such a powerful energy, and it was a different directionality than what was happening in the sweat lodge. So the moon lodge allows for this earthing experience. There's a downward spiral. And what I was amazed at after my first moon lodge is every woman started to menstruate. It didn't matter if you were in your ovulation phase, It didn't matter if you'd been menopausal. One woman was menopausal for 10 years and she also had some blood. So there was something really powerful that occurred in the coming together as women and in the honoring of our wombs and of the connection with earth and our own essence, our own spirit, and just being there, not trying to make anything happen, but just breathing and being with. And some women were wailing, some women were raging, some women were laughing. Of course, I was a little on the orgasmic side because that's what I tended to see. But, you know, it was all there. And no one was in having to be in a story or any of that. It was just we were pouring our humanness into the rocks and breathing and then breathing more. And that's, yeah, I think that would be the thing I would want your listeners right now to recognize, like, oh, I can do that. I can breathe.
Yeah. Yes, so beautiful. And I, you know, just to kind of acknowledge you here for a moment too, as you spoke about how I show up for you. What you may not know this actually, so it might be the first time you're hearing it, but everyone's hearing it now. Yes, I know. You're the type of presence for me that when I am moving through something and I'm in need of support, that I don't even need to physically reach out. I can just think about you and how you hold space for me, which I'm very familiar with. And that in itself does a lot of it. It holds space energetically. And that sometimes it's also, oh my, I better be ready to go to you with this because I am going to be facing myself. I am going to be facing truth here. I can't pretend in that space. So it's really sovereign. And I do it with and without you in the physical presence. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Mhm. How can women, and you kind of touched on this earlier, and I just want to take it a bit deeper, how can women anchor the frequency of this transition from a collective perspective to positively impact the consciousness of future generations?
Yes. Well, I want to also tell women that despite the myth, is that this can be the most erotic, sexual, orgasmic time of life. And there's enough research now that's being done where they look at all the decades, and that in some of that research, they found that actually sex and pleasure and orgasm only gets better and better and better. And they studied people well into their 80s. So, what was the key factor of that being a truth? Number one, none of those people collectively believed it was over. They stayed curious. They stayed connected to their body. They stayed like, it's kind of fun too, because you care a little bit less about your stretch marks or your this or your that. And you're just much more paying attention to sensation and kind of playing with sensation and going, ooh, you know, what would it feel like if I tried this or did that? So there's a little bit more capacity for exploration, even, I would say. So collectively, I think if we start to understand this is the power stage of life and we hold that for each other, when we look to each other or at one another or as someone who is moving through that process, looking and seeing them as powerful, like starting to actually see that there's this emanating energetic that's coming forward. I know that some people refer to hot flashes as power surges, and they can be uncomfortable, but there's ways to mitigate that discomfort. But also just recognizing if you frame it that way, it's like, wow, what's actually like surging through me, like, you know, as a human body, and what wants to be known? What is this fire, this intensity that's pulsing through me? Then understanding not only that it's a power stage of life, which is true, that it is our most potent sexual time of life. Now, I didn't say fertile, I said sexual. And that's intentional because now it's no longer about making babies. So, what is it about?
Yeah.
The number one thing they found that motivates human beings to be sexual is not reproduction, it's pleasure. So when we turn our attention and go, this could be my most pleasurable time of life, then it becomes that. So I think collectively, if we start to share with one another the small things that we do that create more pleasure. For example, one of my friends, Michaela Bohm, I think you might know her, Simone.
Yes.
She does tea ritual. She loves tea, and she just sits with her tea and she has this ritual. And I love that she has that. For me, it's hot chocolate. I love, like, I make it very special one with some cardamom in there and stuff like that. But I savor it. And I love the whole process of making it. I love the whole process of ingesting it. I love the whole process of how it makes me feel in my body. Like, there's this evocative, sensual, erotic, by erotic, I mean deep aliveness experience of that. And even sexually, I would have to say things are only getting better and better, more incredible. But there has to be this willingness to fully claim, I am an erotic being. I am a sexually sovereign being. I'm actually a sexual being. I didn't say sexual doing. You don't have to run around and hump all the legs like I do. But to feel that life force, to feel that, and it's a different sensation than when you were, say, 20 or even 15. We somehow project hormonal activation phase, which is a short period of life from when you first get your period in about 7 years, kind of in that cycle where the hormones are going a bit wacky. So in this second teenage phase, you're having again a big hormonal shift, but now it's a different type of attunement. So perhaps what arouses you is not the same. Pay attention to that. It's okay that it's not the same. Pay attention to the type of touch. Maybe it's changed. Maybe you used to be a bit wild and you wanted, all this crazy intensity. And now you're like, I really want to feel like in a deep sensual way. Or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe it used to be, I really needed always to be very sensual. Now I just want like some ass spanking and whatever it is. Like, I don't know what's true. Like, everyone's different. Or maybe you have all of it and you give yourself permission to go, well, today's spank day and tomorrow will be sensual day. Like, I don't know.
Exactly.
Be with what that is, but come at it as a mature woman who accepts that the erotic, that pleasure, that desire, these are just healthy signs of being alive as a human being. And really, I think collectively, we need to, as women who are shifting the tide, let's say, really just embody that, hey, I am fully in my sensual, sexual power. I choose whether it's lit up where people can see it or not, but it's mine. I own it and I see you. I walked by, this is kind of naughty of me, but I walked by a taverna the other day and there was a little gathering of older ladies, and one of them was eating a piece of chocolate cake. All the others were just having a coffee. But the one eating the piece of chocolate cake, the look on her face, I'm like, she's having an orgasm. like, wow. And so I lean over, I'm like, that looks like a very orgasmic piece of chocolate cake. And she blushed and then laughed. And she's like, oh yeah, it's so good. And all her friends started to cackle and giggle and clap their hands. And it was just such a lovely experience of acknowledging there is pleasure to be had here, and a freedom too, because she didn't care. She didn't care.
And the ripple effect, right, of everyone else
The joy.
feeling that. Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I could talk to you for hours. Well, we do talk for hours. I could talk to you on the podcast for hours. Talk to me about the Embodied Love University. I'd love people to know the resources that are available. And I know that you have Awaken the Sensual Woman, which is a
Yes.
beautiful resource. Speak to those for us.
Perfect. So the Embodied Love University is a platform that myself and my partner, Aaron Michael, have put together. We kind of culminate our life's work, all the different things into this space as an offering to humanity to raise the bedroom IQ or the erotic IQ of humanity, because it really needs help. So the front end of it is free. You just need an email address, pop in there. And the first thing you're going to experience is we're like, well, what are the 5 things that if every human being knew these 5 things, humanity would just be in a better place relationally in the arena of intimacy. And so you will be given those 5 practices. And one of them can immediately start changing. It's a breath practice with the pelvic floor, can immediately start changing even symptoms that some of the women are having. So it's a really important practice. And then we show you pleasure anatomy, and there's so many cool things just in that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're just giving that all away, but we're just giving that all away. And then you can stay on that level. We've gamified it. So if you want to unlock more little mini courses, there's that. There's our, the first part of our podcast is available there. There's community events that are going to be happening. And then there's levels of membership. So there's so much available because we understand that this part of life, the intimate part of life, is actually a journey. It changes as we move through different phases of life, and we want to be there with people. We want to create a conscious community around this and have open conversations and just really normalize this part of life. So that's the Embodied Love University. Super excited to be offering this to the world. And within that, you can also do independent courses. So if you're like, oh, like I just want to jump in and fully into a course. So Awaken the Sensual Woman was a course that we put together. It's based on Aaron's pleasure anatomy. So he takes you through your pleasure anatomy and very slowly. It's a very slow, we did it over 6 weeks. So it's a reporting of a 6-week process. So there's 6 classes, but you're really going to learn about your vulva in a way that you've never learned before because you've only been given the reproductive anatomy. And pleasure anatomy is very different. And then I take you through a meditation, a touch meditation, where you learn how to breathe and move and touch these areas of your body to bring more sensation, to bring more communion, that sacred connection with ourselves, and to also relieve if you have numbness or any kind of pain or any discomfort or even that burning sensation, which is so common for women. You can relieve that through understanding these things. So really supporting women through alleviating a lot of symptoms of pain and numbness, or if you're still menstruating, menstrual cramps, or even just creating more vaginal lubrication and helping all of that. This course is incredible. And if you have a partner, you can also share the course with them so they can learn the pleasure anatomy and also learn about your body and learn the ways to touch your body with you that actually will support that healing and that activation. So those are I think, a really big, important tool, resources for people.
Amazing. And of course, I will put all the links and to the books and so on that you've mentioned so people can start diving in. There's so much available to us. I just honor you and love you and, always love to be able to jump into conversation. Like, as I said, we have these conversations so often. It is a joy to be able to come on and share it with our communities. It's important. We need to know about this stuff. I usually like to wrap up with what's your soulful sound to the world. I'm going to frame it slightly differently just to end and kind of anchor all the beautiful stuff that you've brought today and that we've collaborated on. And that question is, if you could offer one word or vibration to all the women all over the world listening to this, moving through this sacred threshold, portal, gateway, what would it be and how would it feel in the body?
I have to say, we attempted to answer this earlier and the whole my phone overheated from the hotness. So the word, two words come through, but really one of the words that I think is important for today is yum. It's a vibrational word. The at the end of that word vibrates open the throat. It opens the chest and it allows for the front body to start blooming again. And that opening of the front body is on the vagus nerve side. It's social engagement. It allows us to become curious and lean in and and kind of open up to the beauty of life. But yum also reminds us, like, let's actually focus on what is the yum in the moment, in the day, in what's going on. And when we're experiencing yum, let's exaggerate it by, this is tasty or whatever it might be, but making that delicious sound. So that's what I love to leave people with is yum.
Yum. Mwah, so much love. Thank you as always for your presence and your wisdom, Saida.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
If you loved this episode, hit that like and subscribe button and make sure to check out our other episodes. Thank you so much for tuning in, sending you love, healing, and sound wherever you are.